Welcome back, everyone, to this week's episode of Galactic Reviews, where this week we are reviewing and analyzing the movie Belfast. And without further ado, we shall be getting into spoiler territory, spoiler warning, and we'll be talking about the events that happened in the movie. Did you guys know about the history before going into this movie?
No, I didn't, and that's why I was just like, why is there a riot?
I knew roughly the history of it. I never really got into much of what happened. I just knew it did happen, and that was
I
pretty much it.
knew I knew there was a lot of conflict between England and Ireland throughout
Mhm.
history. That's basically all I knew. I did some reading after the movie. Essentially, what happened in the movie with all the riots, with all the Protestants saying Catholics get out of our streets. This is kind of like your last warning, whatever. That was just kind of like a on the face way that things were looked at. It was really about the Irelanders, the Irish. Why did I say Irelanders? The Irish who were majority Catholic, and the kind of like union members, not union members, unionists. I forget how the article said them. The people who were loyalists to like the Union and to the UK, who lived in Ireland, mainly kind of like British sentimentalists. They were majority Protestant. So they took that big dividing factor, and instead of saying screw you Irish or screw you English, basically because they all lived in Ireland as citizens, because at the time the kind of like the Kingdom of England governed over Northern Ireland. It was less of like a regional base and more they just took the religion thing as the easiest thing to attack. But yeah, that's kind of just the historical basis behind it.
Yeah, which was something I was actually very interested in when they first did it with the whole Catholics versus Protestants thing. And I was like, wow, that got very, very much into religion very quick.
Yeah,
So,
it was
and
very
I
much.
didn't remember. Then after hearing that, yeah, that makes a lot more sense because feuds like that don't often happen that much, especially with Christian religions.
Oh,
Not
because
saying they don't happen, but they don't happen that often and that big.
yeah,
I
So
would
that
say
explanation kind of gives it way more
I would say
in-depth
yes and
meaning.
no because I mean the Catholics, extremely old Catholic.
I'm
I
not.
mean
I'm
they would
saying
go
more
out
so.
on and do like crusades and stuff. So
Yeah,
it depends on how they
that can be a
because they can
debate for a
mark
whole
it
nother
as
time.
a holy crusade, and
Yeah,
it can still be kind of to that extent.
I mean, if you want to go into the history of like the Christian religion, the Catholic religion was the original, and then Protestants split off from
Yeah. I
Martin
mean, pretty
Luther,
much,
like
I would
the
say just about every Christian religion split off from the Catholics.
yeah. So the Catholic Church essentially had more time to be corrupt, and they do have a corrupt history. So like, yeah, they were not always the heroes. They were not always the good guys. But yeah, this issue was less about, oh, you're Catholic, you're corrupt, oh, you're Protestant, you're not devout or whatever. It was more just, we think we should not be part of England. We should think we should stay part of England, but we're all Irish. I thought it was really interesting to see this movie through the perspective of the 9-year-old because it put me in his shoes. I kind of
It didn't feel as intense.
yeah, I missed having all of the context of like the history and the point of view that an adult would have in that situation. We would have been given more just historical context and more information about kind of like what was going on. Like we really only got bits and pieces of why the husband and wife were fighting. Had something to do with debt and his job, but we didn't really get concrete information about exactly why.
Honestly, all I could think about was he was possibly at one time a member of the mob,
I took
and
it more
that's
as it was more so a
or
bank
he
loan
took
and they were
money
paying it
from the
off.
mob.
I
I
thought of it
thought
more of as
I thought he
it
evaded
was more of
tax.
yeah. I thought it
It
was
could
just
also be. There's a lot of possibilities. I
Like, yeah,
mean,
we get that, but then we also got the snippets of like school life and just lack of responsibility. We got more of like the relationships and the effect that this turmoil had on children's lives. But we also just got kind of some glimpse of what normal life in the 1960s in Ireland looked like, and I thought that was really cool.
I will say I liked the way they did their classes, where all the smart people were up front and all the non I don't want to say stupid, but just not as book smart in the back.
It was organized in descending order by grade.
I liked it. To be honest, if
You
you don't
can't
care
do that
about
now.
school,
Oh
get
my
to the
goodness.
back.
You can't do that now. Oh my goodness. That does not promote unity whatsoever.
No, but if anything, like it helps with competitiveness. So I mean, I can
And
see it being effective in some ways.
there would be
Um,
a line where eventually
yeah,
people, yeah, up to a certain point, kids would be like, I want to get further and up. And then at one point, it's like, I'm so far in the back, why even try? And then their grades slip improvement.
exactly. That's why I'm like, I mean, I can see it being useful. I can see it not. I feel like it just depends on the group of people
Yeah.
and the class maybe. But I think one of my favorite lines in the whole movie was at the very end, and it was when the boy asked his dad and said, "So would it be okay if I married this girl?" And he's like, "Yeah, yeah, even though she's a Catholic." And he's like, "Oh, it doesn't matter if they're a Catholic. I don't care if they're what. Oh, what did he? I forget the exact words. A
I remember the last one, and in my
a
mind, I was like,
God-hating vegan or whatever it
it
was
was
he
like an
said.
antichrist vegan, and I was like, aren't they
That's yeah.
technically the same thing? It's vegans, antichrist, they're technically the same thing.
I was in the middle of doing something else. Like I'm like the movie's almost over. I can like do the dishes, whatever.
Yeah.
And all I heard was that one line, and I was like, oh, I need to
Yeah.
rewatch this. I need the context for this.
It was
There
it
were a
was a
lot of
very
funny
good line.
bits.
It was quite insightful. I enjoyed that one.
It showed just how much I don't want to say they hate each other, but how they viewed each other as a
Yeah,
religion.
it's recently through some current issues, the concept that like racism is taught. It is not an ingrained thing in us. Anyone who was raised with racist parents is racist now, and that was kind of seen in that and throughout this kind of little kid and through like the people he interacted with. Like he had one conversation with the girl where she was like, "Yeah, you can tell if they're Catholic or Protestant by their name." We're just like, "Is it okay if I marry her, even if she's Catholic?" Like prejudices can be seen like just through the culture you grow up in. That also just
Yeah.
carries over like your viewpoints on the entire world is a product of your upbringing. I really liked the cinematography of this movie. Just some of the shots that didn't even have to do anything with like the dialogue. Like there was no characters in it, but just like the shots were so pleasing to the eye. I just thought it was very
Mm-hmm.
well filmed.
One thing I did think of was I thought the older brother got gypped. Like he had no like real character. I would kind of say growth, because I mean the mother and
I feel
father
like
kind of
he
had
was
that
just
relationship
there
and growth
to
with
kind
the
of tie in the mob
also
and
that,
not
and he
wanting
had
it
to
to
throw the
affect his
rock to the
family.
dad for the guy to throw it at the gun. So I mean he's
Oh
there for
yeah.
that, but
I mean, you also do have to remember that this isn't like a narrative story. This is a autobiography.
well,
So
I
like,
still would have liked to have seen like some like
yeah,
some play, some banter with the two brothers instead
that's
of
fair.
just,
That's a good point.
and some of the talks where it was him and his cousin, I think, who was the girl. It could have been, well, she was at the family thing.
Ah,
So I thought that was his cousin.
I believe it is.
So I was thinking instead of it being her, it could have been him, and it could have been the two brothers having that conversation instead of her and him, which would have been more
Well,
interesting. Granted, it would have not made sense at the end when they were robbing the store because he had been told specifically not to join any gangs or mobs.
yeah,
But
that too. Well, also it's the fact of this is like somewhat an autobiography, so it could be that the older brother just did more work to get money instead of interact with
but
his younger brother.
true, but it
Who
still
knows?
would have been good to see.
I don't
But
know the age difference between those two. So
speaking of the girl, I nominated her for the Kronk Award, even though it's kind of hard to do in an, an autobiographical
I
black
was I
man is
was
wrong.
gonna either say her or the grandfather.
The grandfather.
yeah,
No, 100% the grandfather.
I
I'm
did like
like,
the
I mean,
grandfather. The
she's
grandfather was
good,
good.
but the grandfather.
Kronk
I
is
mean,
too innocent to join a gang. He bakes bread for fun.
That's not true.
And
He was henchman to Yzma,
that is also true.
but he pulled the wrong lever.
but wasn't on purpose though.
I don't see him as nefarious, and she was a mischievous little girl. The grandfather, I loved seeing the relationship between the grandmother and grandfather. That was really sweet, as well as the sweet moments between the mother and father.
I enjoyed another part was when the grandmother went to see Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. First off, when the kid said the movie title, I thought she meant he was talking about something different because I think he said titty titty bang bang. So I don't know if she thought he meant some. That's why she asked, "So what is this movie about?" And then he said a flying car. But I mean, I don't know if that's just the accent or if like he just mispronounced it. Who knows?
Probably the accent. I was contemplating going into this recording whether I should do an Irish accent at some point of it. I was like, you know what? No, I'm not gonna cause any problems for myself. I enjoyed this movie. It was just a nice film. Is the best way I can put it.
It's a nice film to like sit down and just watch as somewhat historical if you want to view it like that. But I think the only thing I can say how it can be viewed as a nominee is for its cinematography.
Like it's good. It's well made. The acting's really
Yeah.
good. It doesn't have any. It's a solidly made movie. It's
Yeah.
just not a something that I'm going to like remember my entire life as one of the best movies I've ever seen. I think now would be a good time to announce that I'm planning on doing a Oscar nomination like mini series, either one semi-long video or like a handful of short videos as I finish movies, just giving kind of like a brief synopsis of my thoughts on it before the Academy Awards happen. I think that's like mid-March, but the movies have not been voted on yet. They should be voted on relatively soon if I remember correctly, but that list isn't out yet, so it's not coming anytime immediately.
Thank you everyone for joining us this week for our video of Belfast. Join us next week when we do the review over the new Kingsman movie. So until next time, and I'm leaving the call. Goodbye.